Hello everyone, in this video lesson we are going to discuss about the general concept of genetics such as the gene, allele, genotype, phenotype, inheriting genes, genetic diagrams and dominance. As we already know, inside of our cells there are found the genetic material made up of chromosomes, and these chromosomes are, let's say, very important because they contain inheriting information, and also a chromosome, it is made up of a DNA molecule which carries the genetic information in the form of the genes, and these genes are sequences of the DNA molecule that have the information to code for a particular polypeptide molecule or for, let's say, a specific protein. And the gene, it is expressed in a particular variety which is known as the allele, and each cell contains two copies of the gene, one that comes from the mother and one that comes from the father. The other concept that we have to discuss is the genotype and the phenotype. The alleles of the organism form what we know as a genotype, and these are represented by symbols. For example, the letter A stands for the genotype of this flower, and what we know about this flower is the color. So the letter A stands for the genotype, and the color that we are able to see stands for the red color. And this is the phenotypes, which means is the physical expression of what we already are able to see by outside environment. A genotype in which two alleles are the same letter, for example, two A's, is said to be homozygous. And a genotype in which two alleles are different, for example, a large A letter and a small A letter, is said to be heterozygous. So genotypes affect the phenotype. And let's take an example. The example in this video, it is the example about the beta-globin polypeptide chain of the hemoglobin, which has different alleles. For example, HbA is, or let's say hemoglobin A, is the allele for the normal beta-globin polypeptide, and HbS is the allele for the sickle cell globin polypeptide. So the letters H and B, or let's say hemoglobin, stand for hemoglobin gene, and the letter A and S stand for particular allele of the gene. In human cells, these let's say, genes form three types of genotype. The HbA, which are the genotype for normal person, or let's say a person which doesn't have the sickle cell anemia. HbS, which is the genotype for a person who is sick with sickle cell anemia. And the last genotype, it is HbA, which is the genotype for a person who is normal but has a trait for sickle cell anemia, which means that this person, it is carrier of the disease. It is normal, but it has a gene of the disease. So let's have a look to a simple example about the hemoglobin and the problems in the beta-globin polypeptide chain that form sickle cell anemia. Here is an example or exercise which says, think about what happens to the father and the mother if they are both carrier of sickle cell anemia. Being carrier, it means that they have the genotypes HBA, and HBS. In the moment that we have the genotypes, we are able to put or form the possible genotypes of the children. So in this diagram, we put the genotypes that come from the mother and the genotypes that come from the father, and so we are able to predict the possible genotypes of the children born from a couple which are both heterozygous. So it means that they are normal, but they are carriers or have trait for the sickle cell anemia. And from the exercise, we can see that 1 in 4 chance of the children, it will be normal. 1 in 4, let's say, will be sick with sickle cell anemia. And 1 in 4 chance there are going to be children with sickle cell trait, which means they are going to be carrier of the sickle cell anemia. Let's have another example explaining the genetic diagrams. Genetic diagrams are a very simple way or standard way to show the genotypes of the offsprings that might be expected from two parents. In this slide, I have given an example of two mice, which we are going to consider the color of their fur. One of the genes of the fur color has two alleles, the large B, which stands for the black color, and the small b, which stands for the brown color. The genotypes produced are two large B letters, which stands for black, two small b letters, which stand for brown, and one large B and one small b, which stands for gray. So it means that homozygous we have same letters, and heterozygous we have different letters, which means they are gray. And the exercise asks us to predict what color would be expressed in the offspring if the parents are, one of them is black and one of them is gray. So it means that we have the crossing between parental genotypes of two B's and two large B letters and two letters which are different from each other. And the parental gametes formed from the first parental genotype are two B letters, which are going to be put in the Punnett square, and the other will have one gamete B, large B, or one gamete small b. And as you can see in the Punnett square, you can see that half of the offspring is going to be all black. So we have in here half of them, and half of the offspring is going to be gray. What about dominance? A dominant allele is an allele that has an effect in the heterozygous organism, whereas the one that has no effect is known as recessive. For example, in the color of the mouse, fur of the mouse, we had the letters two large B. These are said to be dominant through the small letters, which are two small b's, B for the for the brown color, and these are known as recessive, and these are known as dominant homozygous dominant. And if there is a large letter and a small letter, these are known as heterozygous. So the organism, or let's say the allele that has an effect on the recessive in the heterozygous organisms are known as dominant, and the allele that does not have any effect in the heterozygous organism, it is known as recessive. And codominance is a relationship between two versions of a gene. Example, the gray mouse in the previous exercise, or the normal but trait with sickle cell anemia. It is also a type of codominance when we have the two features from the parentals, or let's say from the mother or from the father, and they are expressed in codominance to the offsprings or in the first generation. So this lesson is a lesson to have general reviews or general idea about genetic concepts. Thank you.